In the 1980s, you found yourself amidst a transformative decade that was marked by dreams and aspirations. It was a period that would ultimately come to define an entire generation. You, however, were not the protagonist. No, you were the observer. You were gazing upon the dreams and the passions that enthralled countless teenagers across the country. You see, skateboarding had exploded onto the scene, exuding a magnetic allure that was nearly impossible to resist. However, you were not one of the sun-kissed Californian surfers that was living the dream. Instead, you were a distant admirer from afar. Picture some small, lanky, freckle-faced, crooked-toothed teenager from Connecticut with dreams that stretched way further than the world that he inhabited. You see, in those days, magazines served as your lifelines, granting you access to a world that seemed so far beyond reach. This was a time before the ubiquity of digital media, when the tangible pages of a magazine could transport you to a realm of endless possibilities. And what did you do? You clung to them, reading and rereading until the pages were nearly in tatters. And among these cherished magazines, Trans World Skateboarding shone like a beacon of light in the mist. And it was in these pages that you encountered the groundbreaking and remarkably influential photographs of J. Grant Brittain. So today, we're going to shine our spotlight onto J. Grant Brittain. Now let us journey to the sprawling suburbs of sunny Southern California.
A personal greeting from Southern California, land of sunshine and happiness,
where an extraordinary story unfolds. Meet Jordan Grant Brittain, born in 1955, who stumbled into the world of skateboarding at the tender age of 10. It all began with a Christmas gift, a simple wooden board with wheels. Little did he know that this innocuous gift would kindle a lifelong passion and set the course for his entire life. Fast forward to the summer of 1978, J. Grant Brittain was living the quintessential surf life in Cardiff, sharing a 3-bedroom house with friends while they scraped together $365 a month for rent. One guy had to make do in the garage, of course. Living next door were some avid skaters, one of whom was Tom Wally Inouye, an early pioneer of pool skating. Wally asked Brittain if he'd like to work at the new Del Mar skate ranch. Brittain agreed, but little did he know that this decision would mark the beginning of a 4-decade-long career as one of the most influential skate photographers to ever wield a camera. It was 6 months later, in February 1979, that he borrowed his roommate's camera and shot his first roll of film, which was Kodachrome. At that time, he was 23 with virtually no knowledge of how to operate a camera. He sought guidance from his roommate, who offered some basic instructions. Shoot at a fast shutter speed like 1/500th of a second, align the exposure needle with the viewfinder's circle, and crucially, ensure that the sun was at his back. These rudimentary instructions were his compass as he embarked on his photographic journey. During this initial year and a half of photography, he hadn't taken any formal photography classes. It wasn't until a friend, Sonny Miller, a photographer and cinematographer, invited him into the darkroom to print one of his pictures that he truly embraced photography. That experience ignited his passion. He immediately shifted his art classes to photography classes and delved into photo history, uncovering the styles of masters from various eras. His thirst for knowledge drove him to read books and study photography in libraries, often relying on borrowed photo books and his resourcefulness. Brittain continued working at the Del Mar skate ranch for 6 years. He was managing the pro shop and even spending 8 months as the night security guard, and all the while, he was taking tons and tons of photographs. In the world of skateboarding, iconic photographs aren't mere images. They are relics that encapsulate not just the skill of the skater, but the essence of the moment itself. Brittain's portfolio is a treasure trove of such moments. But if he had to spotlight just one, it might be Tony Hawk's crossbone lean in the keyhole pool. Within that frozen frame lies the very soul of skateboarding during that era, a bold and audacious spirit unleashed upon concrete waves. In 1983, Larry Balma, the owner of Tracker Trucks in Oceanside, approached Brittain with a request to contribute some of his photos to a newsletter that he was producing. To Brittain's surprise, when he arrived, he found a 40-page magazine layout on the wall. The magazine would later become Trans World Skateboarding, one of the most popular skate magazines of all time. Brittain served as the photo editor for 20 years, playing a crucial role in shaping the visual identity of skateboarding during its formative years. This was a time marked by creativity, resourcefulness, and craftsmanship. Each page was painstakingly crafted by hand in a pre-digital world. The mid to late 80s are often referred to as the golden era of skateboarding, and Brittain was at the center of it.
We are the music makers, and we are the dreamers of dreams.
Documenting the shift from vert skating to street skating. His lens chronicled the transformation of skateboarding alongside legends like Nadas Kaupas, Rodney Mullen, and Mark Gonzalez. As skate parks began disappearing, they took to the streets, and Brittain's photographs became iconic. One of his favorite moments was capturing Nadas Kaupas at the precise moment he landed this trick, an achievement that truly defines skateboarding. Another iconic photograph features Mark Gonzalez performing an ollie off of the Venice bathroom's roof, breaking several borrowed boards in the process, a daring move eternally preserved in a single frame. But among the defining moments captured by Brittain's lens, one of the most iconic was Jamie Thomas's audacious leap of faith ollie attempt. It all began with Brittain photographing Jamie at a rail on the opposite side of Point Loma High School. However, Jamie had something extraordinary up his sleeve. At first glance, Brittain thought it was madness, but they returned another day to witness Jamie launch off the leap of faith, annihilating his board in the process. Though it didn't fit the conventional make criteria, this moment heralded the era of big gap skaters. After several years of honing his craft under the sun, a pivotal moment occurred when he acquired a Nikon FM2 camera body in late 1985. This technological leap changed everything with a faster flash sync of 1/250th of a second. It allowed him to capture fill flash shots during daylight, even when shooting directly into the sun, dramatically reducing motion blur and illuminating shadows. This marked a significant turning point, freeing him from the constraints of lighting. In 1986, Brittain captured what is arguably his most famous photograph, a timeless snapshot called The Push. J. Grant Brittain would drive east in Del Mar, California, passing beneath the overpass of the I-5 freeway on his way to grab coffee. He was forever on the hunt for captivating imagery and backdrops. He held a deep appreciation for the beam of light that pierced the gap in the bridge overhead, a gap that divided the north and southbound lanes, casting a play of shadows and light upon the concrete wall beneath. Many have asked him, "Do you perceive the world in black and white?" His unequivocal response, "Hell yes." Certain scenes inherently demand the monochromatic treatment, and this particular geometric interplay of sunlight on a colossal canvas was etching itself indelibly into his photographic psyche. He began mentally conceiving a shot featuring a skateboarder in motion against this textured backdrop, meticulously calculating the precise time of day to execute his vision. The changing angles of sunlight over subsequent days guided his decision, culminating in the realization that early afternoon would grant the optimal diagonal shadow in his Nikon's viewfinder. His darkroom technician, Todd Swank, himself a prominent skater and skate photographer, became a willing accomplice in this photographic experiment. Positioned on the opposite side of a 4-lane road, J. Grant Brittain directed Todd with frenetic arm waving and shouted instructions amidst bustling traffic. Todd gamely rolled back and forth, executing various maneuvers, including a Superman pose. 2 rolls of Kodak Tri-X later, they had tangible evidence of their vision. The photograph wasn't initially intended for the magazine cover. That revelation emerged during the darkroom development process. The original intent was to secure a photograph for the magazine. After developing the film, Todd handed over a contact sheet which J. Grant Brittain carefully examined under a magnifying loupe on his light table. One frame stood out, Todd's simple sidewalk push. It was quintessential, emblematic of skateboarding's foundation, the very first action undertaken when one steps on a board, and an expression of the love all enthusiasts share. They all have this in common: they push. The selected frame was presented to David Carson, the magazine's art director. Carson was enthused by the image and recommended it for the cover of Trans World Skateboarding. David also thought that the cover should be designed without any day-glow cover blurbs, which were common on new wave style 80s covers, and that would muck up the clean design and crowd the pushing skater out of the frame. They viewed the photograph as the quintessential skateboarding image, resonating with all and radiating an undeniable sense of soul power. The proposed design was met with some disdain during an editorial production meeting. It challenged the established norms of magazine distribution and the skateboarding world. It had no day-glow cover blurbs, it was a black and white photograph, and it starred a non-professional skater. The response took J. Grant Brittain somewhat by surprise, and the meeting grew increasingly contentious. He left the meeting somewhat disheartened and skeptical about the fate of their push cover. After a cooling-off period that spanned a couple of days, J. Grant Brittain returned to the office to find the June 1987 issue had miraculously emerged, featuring Carson's design and Todd Swank gracing the cover. The caption on the contents page read, "It doesn't matter who, where, or what. It's just a skateboarder. Skateboarding. Photo, Brittain." This encapsulated the essence of the photograph. The omission of Todd's name was intentional because it was any skater. You might assume that the commotion would end there, with everyone singing Kumbaya, right? Well, not quite. As it turned out, just as many readers of Transworld hated the cover as those who appreciated it. Later, friends would admit their confusion or distaste, wondering what they had been thinking. I tried to explain it to those people, the every skater photo thing, the feeling of freedom through the simple act of pushing down the street, you know? That thing we all do. But it was a hard sell. The magazine endured criticism for some time, but gradually, J. Grant Brittain noticed a shift in the aesthetics of skateboarding magazine covers. The push cover opened doors to new ideas, challenging the conventions dictated by newsstand consultants. People warmed up to that push cover after 20 years or so. I even heard the old haters say that it was one of their favorite covers, and even one of their favorite skate photos. It's that old saying, time will tell. Well, it did in this case. In 2021, J. Grant Brittain published Push, 80s Skateboarding Photography. Brittain was and is the master of storytelling through the lens. He had an uncanny ability to capture the fleeting, almost ephemeral moments that define skateboarding. He'd freeze a skater mid-air, capture the apex of a trick, the sun glinting off the board, and the look of sheer determination in their eyes. It was as if he understood the emotional rhythm of a skater's journey, and his photographs conveyed that journey with a kind of kinetic energy that was virtually unrivaled. Brittin's work transcended the skateboarding realm. It was art with a heart, a testament to the idea that counterculture movements could inspire a world, not just for skateboarders, but for anyone who yearned for authenticity and unbridled self-expression. He was the rock and roll of photography, capturing the pulse of a generation that craved excitement and escapism. His images were invitations to step into the unknown, to embrace the chaotic beauty of life on wheels. In the end, J. Grant Brittain's legendary status isn't just about his skill behind the camera. It's more about his embodiment of the spirit of skateboarding and the subculture that he so brilliantly captured. He was and is a maestro of both action and emotion, sort of a cultural shaman who made an entire generation feel alive with every click of the shutter. J. Grant Brittain is more than a skate photographer. He's a philosopher of motion. He's a poet of the pavement, and above all else, he's a legend for the ages. Thank you all so much for watching this little essay on J. Grant Brittain. I love making videos about skate photographers. I think that they are endlessly fascinating, and I've got a lot more in the tank, so stay tuned for that. If you like what I do here on the channel, please consider hitting the subscribe button and hit the bell to be notified when new episodes are released. Let me know in the comments who you want me to talk about next on the channel. Let me know what other skate photographers you think that I should be talking about, who is not on my radar that should be on my radar. Let me know in the comments. Some other ways you can support the channel are by becoming a member. You can find that join button, and for a few bucks a month, you can get some interesting perks, and you could really help this channel grow and thrive and help me put out more videos. Outside of that, I'm also a photographer myself, so you could head over to my print shop and maybe buy one of my prints. That would definitely also help this channel thrive and grow and prosper. For those of you who have been watching the channel for a while now, I apologize for missing last week. I've been dealing with some sickness, which maybe you can hear in my voice. I've also just had a crazy busy schedule, both in photography stuff and other stuff. So yeah, I'm hopefully going to be able to make these videos a little bit more consistently. But you never know, life kind of gets busy every now and then. And that's all I got for you guys this week, so be sure to hit the subscribe button, hit the bell to be notified. Let me know in the comments who you want me to talk about next, and I will see you all next time.